What is going on, guys? Right before we jump into this, which I'm pretty sure everybody's already read, um, what we will be reading is My Little Dashie. And I'm gonna cry at the end. I've only read it once, and I cried all night. I'm expecting that to happen again. So, anyways, well, my chair just crackled a little bit, but iMovie finally got an update to where I can make videos longer. Do you know what that means? That means there will be no more two-part or more chapters. Yes, I know, you're shocked. Yes, that way I'll be able to take my time when I'm reading, make me pronounce words a little bit better because most of the time I'm rushing through. So, My Little Dashie by Rob Crackern 53. I know that name so well that I didn't even have to look at it. I live my life, one day at a time. A good portion of those days are uneventful, always following in the same routine. I wake up, walk to work, walk home, then bum around until I go to bed. Sometimes I'll hang with my few friends, while other times I'll just play video games or watch My Little Pony. Friendship is magic. Every so often, something new and interesting happens. I meet an old friend, I find a dollar on the ground, or I get chased by a stray dog. Living in a dying city isn't very fun or interesting. This city was once full of life and color, but now most of the houses are sagging. The businesses sit empty and abandoned. Several open fields lay barren of the once great factories that helped drive the economy. I had never seen this city during those times in person, but I had seen pictures. My mother and father lived happy, and they only wished the same for me growing up. Sadly, I cannot say I have achieved that wish of theirs. I've fallen into the same dull routine. Wake, work, sleep, repeat. I do have some moments of bliss, but the daily struggles I go through outweigh the small amounts of joy I have. My Little Pony has helped, but it's still just another thing to give my hopes up on. Every time I see the show, or one of the ponies on a fan site, I recoil a bit at the bright colors, the joyful faces of the ponies, and the peaceful scenery of their world. It's so hard to look at that beautiful world, having it so close to my grasp. I reach out to touch its warm colors and bright, smiling faces of the ponies, only to be stopped by my computer screen. I snap back to reality. It gets to the point where I will simply shut down my computer and walk away. I do that a lot, especially after my parents' death. I go for a walk. When I feel sad, I walk. When I feel tired, I walk. When I feel like walking, I walk. Walking has become my second life in a sense. I spend at least half my day outside the crumbling sidewalks and decaying suburbs. I've seen people come and go. I've seen buildings torn down, burned up, or had so much graffiti on its walls that its unoriginal colors are unrecognizable. I very rarely pass any other people on my strolls. Most people don't like to look at their once beautiful city, their homes or former businesses. I don't blame them. In fact, I envy them. They saw this place with their own two eyes, seeing the buildings still standing tall and proud, the lawns freshly cut, the paved roads and sidewalks still intact. The only thing I've ever seen that even comes close is my mother's paintings, each one of them colorful scenes of this concrete world. She started painting once everything crumbled beneath her feet, making the sad scenery before her look beautiful. Her masterpiece is of an open field that yielded a parking garage. Over it, she drew an amazing rainbow, my favorite picture. I guess this is part of why I like Rainbow Dash the most out of all the other ponies. Her colors, the amazing sonic rainbow, all reminded me of that picture. There have been times I wish I had my own Rainbow Dash, or more realistically, a plushie of her to curl up on my bed. I've made an old Simba into a temporary replacement until I'm able to save enough money for one. It helps in a way, like holding it close will heal my wounds, my pain, and my sorrow. My feet, after countless hours of walking in my old shoes, pulsate under the sheet, and all the while, I'll hold that stuffed animal harder than a mother protecting her child. It is the only thing I can look at and feel true joy, even if it isn't physically the Rainbow Dash I want. It will have to do. Today, as usual, I walked to work. It was the same shit, just a different day, watching the same people enter the store, grab their merchandise, and pay, and then walk out with bags in tow. My shift ended after several hours of this. I clocked out and started walking home. I decided to use a different route this time, for a change in pace, a little something different from the normal path I walk. This part of town was hit the worst. Only a few houses still stand, and none of them occupied. It truly is a sad sight to see. Then again, it's really the only sight I see, the only sight I'll ever see. Or so I thought. I kinda stopped by something unusual. A stray cardboard box in the middle of the sidewalk. Now, living in this kind of area, I see trash all the time. Boxes, McDonald's cups, plastic bags litter the streets, and empty fields, but rarely will I see a cardboard box that isn't crushed in one way or another. I noticed this particular box because it happened to be in my way. Whoa. During my younger years, I tried to do what I could for the community. I'd pick up trash when I saw it, or I'd attempt to help my neighbors. It was a losing battle. Nowadays, I'd given up any hope of cleaning the city, much less my neighborhood. Now I'll just pass the trash by, letting it blow away in the breeze, or sit there and decompose. I let what's left of the people do their own things. Since most of them don't care about anyone other than themselves, why shouldn't I be any different? I walked past the box, barely giving it a glance. Nothing about it caught my attention right away. I continued on, my home not far away now. Upon arriving, I sat down and played some games, attempting to push the box out of my mind. I had little luck. As the box somehow... Oh, my dog's walking in. Hello. Hello, doggy. Reading a sad story right now, so could you just trot away? You're just gonna look at me? Okay. I don't know where I am. I walked past the box, barely giving it a glance. Nothing about it caught my attention right away. I continued on, my home not far away now. Upon arriving, I sat down and played some games, attempting to push the box out of my mind. I had little luck, as the box somehow managed to push its way back in. Time crept on by, and I soon found myself wanting to go for another walk. I left the house and started down my usual route when I stopped. What was it about that box that made it stick out in my mind? I turned around, started down the path I had taken to get home, the path that I only walk once in a blue moon. Curiosity got the best of me. Now I wanted some closure. Within minutes, I found it sitting there, sad and alone on the broken concrete and overgrown grass. It didn't move. It didn't stand out as if it were special. It was an ordinary brown cardboard box. I didn't want to say I came out of here for nothing, so I walked closer. As I drew closer, however, began to notice something inside. It was brightly colored, multiple colors in fact, maybe the size of a month-old Labrador puppy. I stopped beside the box and looked around at the colorful blob inside. This is where I currently stand, looking into the box at a small something. No, I exactly know what it is, but my brain isn't allowing me to fully realize it just yet. At first I want to say it's simply a toy, let to die along with all the other things in this block. Then I saw it breathing. In fact, it appeared to be sleeping. My hands are sweating, my breathing erratic, and I'm blinking my eyes, trying to refresh my vision. Each time the image stays in my mind, inside is a sleeping, filly rainbow dash. I kneel down, trying to get a closer look into the box. I can't believe what I'm seeing. That it's not just a physical, mental, or extraterrestrial way how this could be here. How she could be here, in my gloomy, dark, and horrid world. I examined the box further, and on the side, in simple pen, says, "Give to a good home." My chair is freaking out. There's another chair. I'm going to go and sit in that one. Alright, there we go. The first thought that runs through my mind, besides the initial Philly Rainbow Dash in a box, is, who would give up a Philly Rainbow Dash? My mind is now a mess of questions. How did she get here? Why is she here? Why is she a filly? Her flank is even barren of her cutie mark, meaning she is indeed a filly. As I stand to stretch my tired legs, I accidentally bump the side of the box with my foot, and the inevitable occurs. She wakes up. She looks around, rubbing her face with a foreleg, trying to wake herself up. First all she sees are the brown walls of the box, and then she looks up at me. Those large black eyes, along with the rose-colored rim around them, drive my heart to, as the meme goes, explode twice. The sheer cuteness of it all drives me to kneel back down, and I can't hold back a smile. I haven't smiled like this in years. The last time me and my parents went outside to the only remaining park in the area. Her eyes continue to stare at me, and I stare back. I don't know what to say or what to do, but I must start somewhere. Hi there. I speak, but she doesn't respond. What are you doing out here? She looks around, then back to me. The more I study her, the more I realize she is really young, years younger than her Philly appearance in episode 23. I love how he puts in the actual episode. She might not even be able to talk yet. That is, if she even can talk in my world. The fact that she is even existing right now has me reeling in confusion. I return my attention back to her and notice a small shiver of her body. The fall season is here, and it can get pretty cold, especially around mid-September. But mid-September, it's still summer. At least in Texas. I don't know about where he is. Oh well. I'm not sure how to exactly tackle the situation. Do I take her home? Do I call someone? Who would I even call? I'm a closet brony, so none of my friends know about my love of the show. Alex. I can't take her to a shelter. That's a stupid thought in the first place. Not only would it be a horrible sight, she might be taken out to some lab and experimented on, or something just as equally horrible. I have only one choice. She shakes once more as the cool air reaches her coat. Her wings ruffle as she lays back down and huddles her legs closer to her body to keep warm. That's the final straw. I can't take it anymore. I take off my own jacket and reach down and pick her up. I get the initial response I expected. Fear. She begins to squirm around, unsure what I'm doing to her. She can't fly yet, but she still flutters her wings as in praying for a miracle to happen, that she just magically take flight. I set her into my jacket, wrap her up so that her head is sticking out, and hold her in my arm. She continues to squirm, but then my body heat begins to finally seep through the thin jacket, and she settles down. It's all right. Let's get you somewhere warmer, huh? I smile again at her. She looks up to me with much confusion in her eyes. She tries to process what is happening. Don't worry. I'm not going to hurt you. It's getting late. You'll freeze out here. I think she understands me, for after I say those words, her eyes return to their normal size, and she snuggles herself more comfortably inside my jacket. She squirms a little, trying to get in a more comfortable position. I can feel her hooves and wings poking me as she shifts. Then, to top it off, she rests her chin on my arm and lets out a deep sigh, closing her eyes to drift off to sleep. My heart explodes for the third time. The entire walk back, I keep an eye out for other people who could pass by me. I don't want anyone else to see her. I have no way of knowing how they will react. As usual, though, I don't see a single person. It's midnight by the time I get home. Fortunately for both of us, I turned on my porch light. Otherwise, I might have passed it, being one of the few occupied homes on the block amid a lot of darkness. The city even stopped running power to streetlights, so that made it all the more difficult. I glanced down at the filly and continued to sleep in the jacket as I carried her. She was no longer shivering and felt quite warm. My God, I'm just not used to reading this long. This is amazing. I walk up to my porch, careful not to make too much noise, as I get my keys out, unlock the 2 deadbolts, the master lock, and finally the doorknob, and open my door. It is dark inside, due to me leaving while it was still light out. With a flick of a switch, the single bulb in the hallway comes to life, shedding some light into the living room. Most of the furnishings are my parents'. Then again, so is the house. I became the owner of it after their passing. I have done what I can to keep it that way. Still, with the Philly rainbow dash in my arm, I walk into the living room. As I pass my family portrait, I greet it with a, "Hello, Mom. Hello, Dad." I know they aren't there, but knowing that they love me and that I love them helps me stay sane, and to keep me going in my miserable life. As I enter the living room, I can feel stirring in my arm. She had woken up, most likely when I turned on the light, and is now getting antsy, with no idea what to do or how to tackle the situation. I set her down on the couch. Immediately, she jumps out of the jacket and looks around, already investigating her surroundings. I continue to watch her as she explores the couch, then continues to the coffee table. What are you doing here in my world? I didn't mean to ask that out loud, but it just sort of happens every now and then. Only seeing my few friends once in a great while, I find myself talking to, well, myself a lot. I don't want a pet, because that just means more money to dish out. I'm already struggling as it is. For my question, the only response is another blank look on her face, that tells me she has no clue either. Then again, what else should I expect from a filly that can't even talk yet? Are you lost? The moment the words left from my mouth, her ears fall, and she looks to the ground. Oh. The realization strikes me that she has no clue what is going on, where she is, who I am, or anything else. She is beyond the word lost. She is misplaced. Well, until something happens, I guess you can stay with me. I see how she lifts her head up. He is starting to erect once again. Erect. And looks at me with worry. My words don't sound that encouraging, so I throw on a smile as I speak. Don't worry. I'm sure whatever brought you here will fix itself within time. We just gotta wait. Is that alright? I'm not sure why I asked that, but it seemed to do the trick. Her ears perk right up, and she smiles. Ooh. The next few hours are spent giving her the grand tour of my house. Nothing amazing to see, and I avoid taking her into my bedroom out of the fear that the large amount of dirty clothes would swallow her up. Afterwards, I give her something to eat. I break up some small carrots, and amazingly, I discover they have some teeth. Since she is still a filly, I wasn't sure if she could eat solid foods, such as carrots, yet. Then again, she is from a cartoon, so I don't know what is correct for her anyway. Satisfied with the food, she finds a comfy spot in my father's recliner and sits. I don't mind. It's not like I sit in it. I was never allowed to when he was alive, so why should that change even after his passing? It's his chair, but I'm not going to be mean to the filly for not knowing that, so I let her sit where she is most comfortable. I also give her a small blanket to wrap herself in, due to my house's current temperature. It's not as cold as it is outside, but my furnace has had problems since before my parents' passing. There was a trick to fixing it, but that died along with my father. I must have fallen asleep at some point. Honestly, expecting myself. Oh, something happened. Something fell. It scared me. Oh, that's my dog. She's whining about something. I'll go see what it is. There we go. But after the long hours at work and staying up to take care of Dash, my body had other plans. I'm not sure how long I was out before I awoke, but it doesn't matter. As I close my eyes, I feel something against my side. I look, and sleeping beside me is the small Scion filly, her rainbow mane and tail still, her head resting on the inside of my elbow. I know the name gets old, but I'm going to say it. My heart exploded again. Laying there sleeping and curled up beside me, had me smiling ear to ear. Okay, hopefully no more interruptions now from my cat and my dog just being idiots. My dog's like right beside me, she doesn't know what to do. Her gentle breaths are barely heard. Her hairs on her mane tickle my arm, but I hold back any movement to itch. The warmth of her body against my stomach warms my already weak heart. Though a few months isn't a long time, it's how long I have wanted a moment like this. My own little pony, a Rainbow Dash pussy to sleep with and hold tight. Now I have a real Rainbow Dash, a filly, sleeping at my side, content as though she has known me since birth. Right now there's nothing else that matters to me. My despair, my sore feet, and painful heart all go unnoticed, as nothing else can come remotely close to the feeling I have right now, this joy I am experiencing. At this moment, what are you doing, you silly dog? As I lie awake on my couch, she is here. She is real, right now. She is my little pony. She is my little Dashie. It has been only 4 months since I brought the young Rainbow Dash into my home. I've done what little research I could on the matter, but I have come to no conclusions. I have no idea why she is here, and quite frankly, I don't even care anymore. These few months with her have been the most amazing time of my life. She has opened my heart up to love and joy, among other things. Right now, she sits next to me on the couch as I watch television. She seems to enjoy the morning cartoons on the local stations, and I myself have come to enjoy them. She acts much like a young child would. Then again, why wouldn't she? Other amazing feat is that she is learning to talk. I'm not much of a teacher, but for that matter, a parent. But I'm doing my best to help her learn to speak and read. I don't know how, or even where to begin, to attempt in teaching her to write. From the show, they did it with their mouths. But I will let that go for now. Once she is a little older, I will have her that long. Even if I even have her that long, I will do what I can to teach her. That was really weird. There was too many commas there. It used to be that a year would go by slowly. I would look forward to the new year in hopes of getting a fresh start. Now, though, I feel as if this year went by too quickly for me. I've decided, since I have no knowledge of her actual birth date, to make the day that I found her birthday, September the 17th. Oddly enough, the very same date that the second season of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic aired last year. I quit watching the show after Dashie came into my life. There was no reason for me to continue. And honestly, I don't have much time to myself anymore. But dude, season 3, Twilight was gonna become an alicorn. This fanfic is ruined. It would be hard to hide me watching the show, and even harder to explain the situation if she were ever to see it, especially at her current age. She knew her name was Rainbow Dash, but I've come to calling her Pinky's pet name of Dashie. She has no problem with it. She can fully communicate with me now, as well as read English. She's even starting to learn how to write with, you guessed it, her mouth. I tried to invent some devices for her hoof so she could write, but it seems writing with her mouth is more natural than moving her hoof around. One thing now troubles me with her. Every day she sits at the window looking outside. I'm not worried about her being seen by passerbys. I'm on a dead-end street, so that's the least of my worries. But still, though she doesn't say anything to me yet, I can see the hunger for fresh air in her eyes. I can't keep her in here her entire life. Ha, I keep talking like she is going to be here forever. This isn't true. One day, someday, she will return home. Whether it will be a simple poof, and she's gone, although some magical spell in Twilight shows up and takes her home to fix everything. In my heart, I hope that never happens. In my head, I know it will. It's just a matter of when. I do hope to get her outside soon. I've been taking out some of the abandoned lots and former parks on my walks to and from work, seeing where the best I just scrolled down and I don't know where it is. Seeing where the best location would be to take her. Oddly enough, seems the park where I played as growing up is the best option, and that shall be it then. I shall take her to the park. How will I get there? She's still relatively small, so she can be hidden inside a jacket or something. Tomorrow is supposed to be a nice day anyway. She did it. After 2 years of my care, having absolutely no knowledge of flight myself, I helped her learn to fly. She's gotten quite big in a couple of years, and it was getting hard to hide her when we walked to the park. I got so desperate to keep her hidden. I bought a dog costume for her to put on so she could walk there unnoticed. She was not happy. So I got some books from the library and read up on teaching birds to fly. I would have looked on the internet, but I fear she would have become curious of it herself. There was a lot of horrors on the internet, and she's not ready for it. In hindsight, it's bad enough she's experienced in television, but she has come to enjoy SpongeBob and NASCAR. Too much for me to take that away from her. A SpongeBob and NASCAR. The young redneck diet of television. Yeah, whatever. Back to the flying. I've been taking her to that old park for weeks, in hopes I could help her learn how to fly. There is a large tree there, with branches sticking out over a sandbox. The perfect spot for her to practice. If she falls, I can't catch her, but at least she'll have something remotely soft to land on. She fell a lot. I know she would fall a lot. There were so many scrapes, cuts, and bruises toward her goal, but finally, after many weeks of work, she flew. It was only a short distance, about 50 feet, but she still did it. She's a little scraped up, but she's beaming with pride. Maybe now she could fly overhead, so that the few people on the ground don't notice her. I'll have to see if she can manipulate clouds, like she could in the show. It would make it much easier to take her places. Then she can hide on a cloud as we go to the park. Another thing that's been brought to my attention, she's asked about me having her own room. I've got thinking and realized the house doesn't have a spare bedroom, though my parents have filled it with my old school stuff from my younger years, as well as several of my old toys. She might enjoy them, though she is getting older. I'm not sure how entertaining they will be for her. If she has her own room, I can get her own things, so that she might feel somewhat normal. She's pretty smart for a filly, and knows about the difference between our species, but she still knows nothing about her origin. She is not ready yet. The only thing I can do is keep her happy. I only wish I had one way to buy her the things I want. She wants. Why did I say I want? That's freaking evil. If you told me 4 years ago I'd be taking care of a cartoon rainbow-colored pony, I'd call you insane. I probably am in all reality. But I don't care. I'm happy. She's happy. Today is a day for celebration. For today, my little Dashie got her cutie mark. Honestly, I honestly didn't know how to tackle that fact. She didn't even know what it was until I explained it to her. Now she's even more ecstatic than before. It was a normal park outing, but this time she decided she wanted to see how high she could get. I limited her to how high she could fly. Honestly, I can't do anything about what she does up there. I can't fly, so the most I could do is tell her to be careful. Somewhere she got in her head that to see how fast she could fly. Probably due to her being a NASCAR. Due to her being a NASCAR, that makes sense. And well, a general racing fan. For some time, she was trying to make up tricks and stunts of her own, giving them names. I'd sit on a bench I had fixed up and cheer her on. No one was ever around anymore. In fact, on the block, I think the last person left over a year ago. There were rumors that the entire area was going to be bought out by some company, however, and all this turned into a large manufacturing area. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's not important now. Right now, I'm so overcome with joy that my Dashie now knows her place. Granted, this isn't her world. She is still the same Rainbow Dashie from the show. Regardless of how I raised her, she has the same spunk and attitude from the show, and now she has her cutie mark. Anyway, she climbed to quite a height in an attempt to gain speed from a fall. Well, all the right things factored for her, how she positioned herself, her mental focus, and possibly me on the ground, watching and cheering her on. But she did it. She broke the sound barrier and created a sonic rainbow overhead. Now, I didn't even imagine it was possible to accomplish such a feat in my world. I knew you could break the sound barrier, but to actually do the rainbow part too, my mind is blown. The initial explosion brought upon many broken windows and sent off car alarms in the next country. I quickly rounded her up, and we rushed home before anyone could arrive at the park. I was lucky none of my windows were broken. The rest of the day was spent celebrating. It just so happened today was her 4th birthday. I have no way of knowing how old she actually was, but when I got her, so I just started over. I would have bought a cake, but due to the boom, all the businesses were closed. I needed new windows. So we made a cake on our own. Apparently the fan fiction writers got it right. She can't bake at all. Granted, I'm not the best myself, but it was still a mess. But we had fun, she enjoyed herself, and she is happy. Therefore, I am happy. Though that was her highlight of the day, mine was just moments ago. She has now come accustomed to sleeping in her own room versus with me out on the couch. I actually stopped sleeping in my room and kept her company in the living room up until recently. Now I can sleep on my own bed once more. But I keep my door unlocked, so if she needs me, she can get me. I had just tucked her to bed, told her good night when she said, "Good night, Daddy. I love you." I haven't been on the internet in, 3 years now? I don't know how My Little Pony thing online is doing, or what memes are still alive or not, but damn it all, I'm gonna say it because it's true. My heart exploded twice. For the first time, not only did she call me Daddy, which she has done on occasion, but she even said, "I love you." For a moment, I didn't even know what to say, or what to do. I've never been in this sort of situation before, but I remember what my mother and father used to do, so I leaned down and kissed her on the forehead and told her the same thing. "Good night, my little Dashie. I love you too." She smiled at me, and then closed her eyes to sleep. I walked out, turned off her light, making sure the SpongeBob nightlight was on, of course, closed the door, and then sat down on the couch. I haven't moved for an hour now. I'm so lost in thought. The few times she has called me Daddy, I didn't think anything of it. I could picture why she called me that. Being with her so much made me accept it as a part of taking care of her. But tonight, when she said those 3 words, the realization finally sunk into my heart. I am her daddy. I'm her daddy, boy. I'm a baby daddy. She considers me her daddy, and quite frankly, I consider her my daughter. Even though we are a totally different species, I still love her with all my heart. And it has taken her to speak those words to me for me to finally realize that I think I've finally done it. I have broken my hard shell that I formed when my parents died. I've led a sweet little filly into my life. I gave her a home to live in, food to eat, and now a daddy to love. She has given me hope, love, compassion, and now something I thought I'd never utter, a daughter. I still speculate when the time is going to arrive that she goes back to Equestria, and each day it gets harder for me to imagine when that actually happens. I just hope that she never forgets me, because I will never forget her. I believe Dashie is now at her full size, rounding in about 3 feet. She is fully grown. Though she is still only 10 years old, according to my math, I believe she is actually more along the lines of 14 or 15, possibly in actual years. So we celebrated 5 missed birthdays and officially moving day. That's right, moving day. We moved from my parents' house thanks to me finally saving up enough money, plus getting lucky at a casino. We bought a nice house 100 miles from the city. It's got a lot of open land. There isn't a house within 5 miles, and it's just me and her. Now she can fly all she wants, whenever she wants. She's truly happy, though she does miss the old park. It's gone now, along with anything else left in the area. A large business bought up all the land, flattened it into a large factory there. It was an amazing boon to the economy, and people are starting to build homes again. I'm glad, but it just wasn't for us. The amount of people would hinder her going outside, and I'm not going to force her to stay inside all day, unless it's raining out. Got a new job, one that pays much more than the old one. Dashie even talked about getting a job, but then she remembered what I told her. The look on her face was heartbreaking. We were enjoying a cake we made, but I must add we had improved upon that skill. When she brought it up, I jokingly said we can't make due to her being a pony, and I laughed. She remained silent. My God, I'm horrible. I just laughed because my daughter is different. Sniff. I apologized for hours. Even though she says she understands, I know she is still hurt. Luckily, I've found a way to fix this. Due to her sheer size of the property, it involves a lot of cutting of the grass. Tomorrow, I'll modify a lawnmower for her to use. She can still have a job. I'll even pay her so she can buy her own stuff if she wants. Though I'd have to get it for her. She can actually say she has worked for something. According to the show, she was a weather pony. I don't have her mess with Mother Nature unless it's a dire emergency. There isn't really any job to be had here. I can't believe I've had her for 10 years now. My God, times go so fast. I wish I would slow down so that I could have more time with her. I don't know when, but I have the same feeling our time together is running out. All this has been too good to be true. Today probably has been the worst day of my life, even more than worse than when my parents died, due to events I cannot prepare for. Dashie found out the truth before I could tell her myself. She knows what she is, a made-up cartoon character from a kid's television show. She is mad, no, upset beyond all thought. She had locked herself in her room, but I know my daughter. She didn't stand there for long. She opened her window and flew off, probably into a tree, to sulk in her sorrow. I'm a monster. I should have told her sooner. I just wasn't sure when would be the right time. Now we are both suffering from my carelessness. I thought getting cable would be a good thing, give her some more shows to watch. But then I didn't realize that we got the hub station. I wasn't even aware it was still up. To find my surprise, the show's My Little Pony is still airing. It had stopped at 8 seasons, but still, it was repeated. 8 seasons, not too bad, not too bad. We shall have infinite seasons. I wish. It'd be awesome. Like, freaking, like, Star Trek long. This goes on forever. I remember I walked in from work with some groceries, set them into the kitchen, and walked into the living room when I saw it. Yay, she did it! Fluttershy screamed, jumping with joy, as Applejack, Twilight, and Pinkie Pie all sat on the clouds with dumbfounded looks on their faces. My heart sank. I knew this episode. I remembered this episode. Even after saying nothing for 12 years, I still remember that damn episode. In that episode, Rainbow Dash performs the Sonic Rainbow, much like how Dashie had many years ago. At the time, I was still holding my keys, and I dropped them. They clanged on the wooden floor, as if she didn't know I was home before. She knew now. How long? Dashie asked me with no emotion in her voice. How long did you know about this? Dashie turned to look at me. She had been crying, and her mane was in worse shape than normal. How long have you known about this? I couldn't help it. A tear ran down my cheek as she yelled at me. It was the first time in all these years she had raised her voice to me, and I deserved every bit of it. So I sat down, turned off the television, and told her everything. I told her about the show, about finding her, and answered any other questions she had for me. There were a lot. Most of them stemmed from the show, so which I simply told her what I truly believed, that though she is Rainbow Dash from the show, that she herself is a different pony from the cartoon. I tried to explain it to her, but her bullheadedness took over as she continued to lash at me. I took it all. I deserved it. I've been keeping that horrible secret from her for far too long. She is now a fully grown mare, capable of taking of herself if she ran Equestria. Here, I treat her like she's still a little filly. It's been wrong of me, but I couldn't help it. I didn't want this to ever happen, but I knew I knew it would. I should have done what was right, but I didn't. It was only a matter of time before she found out, and she knew she was different. After our argument, she flew upstairs to her bedroom and slammed the door shut. I checked on her an hour later, no response, told me she had flown off. I can only hope that she comes back, or at least if she doesn't, she stays away from any other people. If anything, I hope some sort of portal opens up and she goes back to her world and never has to think of me again. All I can say to her at this point is that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's been 3 days since Dashie left. The night of her departure, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I went for a walk. I wasn't sure where I was going, or how long I walked, but that's what I did. I walked. Now 3 days later, I find myself out here walking again. I've been out for roughly 3 hours, and although it's only 5 in the afternoon, it has grown dark. A storm is brewing, and soon I will be getting hit by the brunt of it. I turn around to begin my walk home, though I don't rush. My energy these past few days has been non-existent, as I've barely eaten anything more than some toast. I feel so lost as I walk through the woods that surround my home. No, our home. It is as much as hers as it is mine. Nothing will change that. The rain has begun, but I do not quicken my pace. I just walk much like I had done so long ago. The distant memories of all my pain and sorrow before Dashie begin to seep into the back of my mind. I haven't had one of these thoughts in years. The pats of water on the tree leaves helped keep me distracted. It was a peaceful sound, one you would never hear in the city. The rain is picking up as my shirt is now soaking wet. I'm sure I'll be sick tomorrow morning, but I don't care. I've been sick for 3 days now. Mental illness that has been tearing me apart. My daughter is somewhere out there, hurting, needing some comfort and warmth in this rain. I wish I could be there for her, even though she may not want me to. She may not ever want to see me again from how she acted. I don't blame her. It must have been such a horrible thing finding out your past like that. I can't even imagine what it would be like. I know Dashie is a strong mare, and she can pull through, but I also know how she holds a grudge at sometimes. I'm not sure that even if she did come back, she would ever forgive me. More importantly, if I could even forgive myself. It is now pouring out here. The tree canopies are barely holding back the torrential rain as I am hammered by water droplets. I stop to look around. I find my bearings to return home. I'm not lost. Most of this area is easy to traverse once you get used to it. It's just I'm also looking for Dashie as I walk. It's the reason why I'm walking in the forest in the first place. I press on, keeping a steady pace through the rain. Suddenly, I spy a large, thick tree. Its stature sticks out among the rest, and from looking at the barely wet grass underneath, I can tell its many branches are holding back, even in this hard rain. I need to take a break, so I walk under the tree and sit down. The grass is barely wet, with only a few small droplets making their way down. This is the kind of tree I'd imagine Dashie would hide under in this rain. I wish it to be true, but I saw no sign of her as I approached. I close my eyes and lean against the tree hulk as I think about my life, our life, together as a father and daughter. We had grown so much as a family, and I've been fortunate enough to have very few fights. None of them were as heartbreaking as the one 3 days ago. I feel a tear running down my cheeks as I imagine Dashie's face again. The anger in her eyes mixed up with the confusion just tears me apart. I want so badly to make things right, or go back in time and stop it from happening, but I can't do either of those. What's done is done. I'm so sorry. I speak out loud, not caring for no one who is listening. I'm alone in these woods. Besides the wildlife in this rain, they are hiding as well, the ones that aren't far from being such as I. I'm so sorry, Dashie. I continue to cry. I keep my eyes closed, leaning against the tree. The rain continues to pour around me. It occasionally drops on my head, but I don't care. Crack. I open my eyes from the sudden sound to my left. I'm shocked at what I see before me. Looking at me with teary eyes herself, Dashie, my little Dashie, covered in burrs and tree sap, along with her mane and tail, is standing a couple of feet from me. She is wet with both rain and tears. I hadn't heard her approach. Then again, being a Pegasus, she was very quiet and light on her hooves. She doesn't speak, and instead walks over to me, not caring what noises she makes under her hooves. I don't move. I just sit on the ground and watch with my very with my own wet eyes. She looked so horrible, and yet so beautiful at the same time. Her coat would need a good cleaning, but that was the least of my worries. Without a word, she sits next to me, not making eye contact as she looks off into the woods. I can only look at her, wishing to hug her tightly and never let her go again. But I hold back, knowing that it would be too sudden. Finally, she is the first to speak. I heard you. Her voice then got quiet as she whispers, "And I'm sorry too." I simply smiled through my tears. Her stubborn attitude was still showing as she always had difficulties apologizing. "Dashie, you have nothing to be sorry about. It's my fault. Simple as that." It seems my point doesn't get across, and she finally looks at me with a sorrowful face. "Dad, do you still love me?" Now is the time to act. I reach over and grab her, holding her tight and hug. "Of course, Dashie. I've always loved you. I still love you no matter what. Not even a small fight such as ours could ever change that." She returns the hug, as we sit there and cry together. We continue to apologize, me for the truth, and her for raising her voice and storming out. After some time, the rain subsides while we remain under the tree. "Dad? Can we go home now? I need a shower. Bad." I let out a chuckle, and she laughs too as I stand. We made our trip back home. She is smiling again. I am too. I've been giving it some thought, and I think I should give her a birthday present a little early. A ticket to the Indy 500. Yes, I'm taking her to the Indy 500. She can simply sit on some clouds and watch while I'm in the stands. I didn't even have to get her a ticket, but she needs some sort of reminder of her visit. I'm sure she will have a blast, though I don't expect this to make everything right, but I hope it cheers her up some. With some time, I know she will relax and settle down after being in the cartoon. She is a smart mare, as she knows she is real, not some made-up pony from the cartoon. I can only help push her to believing that, and hope she does the same to me. There's a point in every parent's life where they have to let their child go, whether it be for the better or for the worse. It must happen at some point. I now sit here in my living room by myself, sulking over photographs of my distant memories of me and Dashie. On her 20th birthday, I had planned a special outing to go and see a flight show as we were prepared to leave. There was a knocking at the door. Never in the years we had lived there had anyone knocked at the door. Hell, we haven't even made arrangements if someone did show up. I simply told her to go to her room while I took care of it. Once I heard her door shut, calmly and collectively, I asked who it was knocking, expecting some stranger, possibly lost in his or her travels. A female voice spoke in such an elegant, yet attention-grabbing tone, I felt myself listening to her with the most utter attention. She asked if she may come in, a question I normally refuse with a heartbeat. Yet something about her voice was reminiscent. I couldn't help but walk over and open the door. Then I first saw the figure standing on my porch. I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or hallucinating. Standing there was the radiant and majestic Princess Celestia. I was at a loss of words, fighting both emotions of brony excitement, which I had only felt when I first found Dashie, and emotions of sorrow, for I knew what this meant. She stood there for another second looking at me. We matched each other in eye level, her body being the size of nearly a full-grown horse. I stepped back, allowing her to enter. What caught me off guard next was the 5 other ponies that followed suit. First Twilight Sparkle, then the rest of the gang. Applejack, Rarity, Flesheye, and lastly Pinkie Pie bounced in. Ooh, so this is what an alien house looks like on the inside. "Oh my, you have a kitchen? I'm starving. Are you starving? I can make us some." She was stopped by Applejack's hoof. "Easy there, Sugar Cube. We're just here for a rainbow, so we ain't got no time for any eating." Rainbow Dash stomach. Applejack. When I say Rainbow Dash, Applejack's stomach growled. No matter how hungry we are. I still wasn't sure how to completely react to all this, but not wanting to be rude, I offered some leftovers. We have some leftovers from dinner last night. You're more than welcome to have some." Pinkie took that as an okay and ran to the kitchen with much vigor. It seems that I did not even need to tell her where anything was. She instantly knew where everything was placed. Factor it to either dumb luck or it simply being Pinkie Pie. I chose the latter. "I'll go keep an eye on her," Applejack said, walking to join the hyper pony as she passed. She tipped her hat to me. I was finding it odd the ponies were not more hesitant around a creature such as me. Then again, Same can be said for myself. But having been Dashie for 15 years, I grew used to having such a thing around me. Now I have 5 other ponies and a full-sized goddess horse looking at me with the same amount of curiosity that I held for them. There was a moment of silence as I watched the 2 mares enter my kitchen and begin to rummage through my fridge. "I'm quite surprised," Celestia began. "I had expected a little more resistance to us entering." "Why, I know who you all are." Celestia nodded. So you do know then. There you are. You are fictional characters from a children's TV show? Yes. Otherwise, why are you all here? I have no clue. Last part I lied, hoping to keep my mind at ease. I knew the reason, but I wanted to ignore it. Oh, I think you know. My heart fell into the pits of my stomach. I did know, and she was straight to the point about it. During all these years, I had anticipated this moment, but as time dragged on, that slowly dispelled until it was just nothing more than a minor nip in my mind. That's when it always happens, you know, when everything is finally perfect and you have time to worry anymore. You don't have time to worry anymore. Excuse me, sir, Twilight began, but from what we could figure out, Rainbow Dash should be here. Is she? Looked to the purple mare. I wanted to tell her no, but it was fruitless. She's upstairs, in her room. In her room? Rarity asked, surprised. Yes, Dashie is in her room. I wasn't sure who was knocking, and didn't want her to be spotted. Dashie? My, you're that friendly with her already? Rarity continued. I wanted to punch that pony so hard right then. How she responded insulted me. Friendly? That's not even the beginning of it. And I should be asking you ponies as to what the hell you did. Come on, you can't be mad at Rarity. That's just who she is. Rarity's awesome. Celestia raised a brow, taken back to my change of tone. You see, my student, I know who she is. Get to the chase. I was very short with her. As furious as I was, I wanted to know why they'd send Dashie as a filly to some other world. Twilight bit her lip as her teacher continued. Yes, of course. She was working on a spell to help the weather team with some storm development. Well, they made slightly too large of a storm, and when Twilight used her magic to try and dispel it, it shot a lightning bolt meeting her magic. Rainbow Dash was unfortunate enough to be within reach of the blast, and it engulfed her and sent her to, well, here. So here we are to retrieve her. Simple enough, I'd imagine. Before I could answer, Dashie called from her bedroom. Dad, is everything alright? That second, my heart stopped beating. I knew it looked from pony to pony. Each one's face was in pure shock and confusion. They recognized the voice from Rainbow Dash, but she said, Dad. Excuse me, Sugar Cube, Applejack started, returning from the kitchen. Did I just hear Rainbow call you Dad? Before I could answer, Celestia started up again. Do you care to explain? I was lost. So many things were running through my mind at once. There was only one thing I could do, and I had to do it. I knew I wouldn't like it. Go to the living room and make yourselves comfortable. I'll be right down with her. I didn't allow a response. I turned around and walked up the stairs slowly. Dad? Yeah, Dashie, I'm walking up. I looked back to the group of ponies as they watched me ascend. We need to talk. So that's what I did. I told her who was down there and that they were there to take her back. She had seen the cartoons so often after some time and found the wacky adventures entertaining. She had given up any thought that the Rainbow Dash in the show was her, and only viewed it as another cartoon. I talked to her and explained that those very ponies she didn't believe in were downstairs. She brushed me off with some laughs. She didn't believe me and thought I was playing some joke on her. So I took her down to the living room. Dashie! Pinky shouted, jumping onto her sighing friend. Dashie was quick to shove the pink pony off. Hey, get away from me! She had taken back by the sudden amount of ponies filling our living room. They all looked at her with worried expression, to why she had shoved her closest friend away. Thought to say closet. Pinky's cotton candy mane went straight as she looked in confusion. You don't recognize me, do you? No, or any of you, Dashie continued. It hurt me in so many ways. I knew these were her friends, but so many things had happened differently that she didn't know the truth fully. Neither did they, so I had to explain to them. I started. Dashie, take a seat, please, so I can talk to them. She did just that in her recliner. The entire time she looked at all the ponies who occupied the couches and center rug in front of the fireplace. It was time, but first I had to start with a question. How long ago was she sent over here? The question caught them off guard, but Twilight cleared her throat as she spoke. About 15 days ago. Why? I was speechless. 15 days ago? Shit! She's been with me for 15 years. That means a day in their world meant a year here. Well, I continued, spent a lot more time than that here. How long? Twilight asked. 15 years. All the ponies besides Celestia had their mouths agape. But that don't explain why she doesn't know us, Alwadak said. Well, that's the thing. When I found her, she was a filly. Come again? From my math, I think she was no older than 4 or 5 years old. Now Celestia looked surprised. You mean to tell us that you've been taking care of Rainbow Dash for 15 years since she was a small filly? She asked. I simply nodded and looked over to Dashie, who wore an expressionless look on her face. She is, I started, but I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. I know it's not true. God, I wish it was, but I understand that the dad now makes sense. Celestia cut me off, holding a stern look at her face. She was thinking, trying to piece together in her mind what had possibly happened. I chalked it up to the magic, being unstable, possibly reversed in her age. For a few moments it was quiet, besides the breathing of 7 ponies and myself. Finally, it was Dashie who broke the silence. So what's supposed to happen now? I looked at the princess, trying to read her face. No matter how good I had gotten at reading Dashie's face, Princess Celestia had the best poker face I had ever seen. I had no clue what she was thinking or feeling at this moment. Well, it was quite simple. Twilight. Celestia looked to her pupil, who instantly perked up hearing her name. Do you still remember that memory spell from the Discord incident? Twilight simply nodded as she stood from her couch and hopped onto the floor. I knew what was going on. What Celestia had in mind. She wanted Twilight to either erase her memories and start from anew, or possibly hope that just simply she wanted to give Dashie her memories of their friendships in time in Ponyville. I wasn't sure what to do. I felt it was right. I knew it was right. It needed to be done. But I had to keep telling myself for 15 years as I waited for this moment. There was nothing I needed to say before it happened. These ponies were going to take my Dashie away. I had some words to speak before that happened. No, wait, please. I started. Twilight stopped. I looked at the sun goddess. Just give me a moment with her, please. All I ask, since this is the last time we'll see each other. I had given up holding back my tears, and at this point was openly crying. The ponies could tell I was hurting, and Dashie didn't look to be faring too well either. So figuring it wasn't good to prolong the inevitable, I walked over to the chair that Dashie sat in, knelt down, met her at eye level, and I spoke. Dashie, my little Dashie, I love you with all my heart. You have done wonders to open me up from the man I once was. You. I had a pause a moment to settle down. You have brought me so much joy in my life that I can't possibly ever thank you for. At this point, Dashie too had begun to cry, and that made it only worse for me. And now I am starting to cry, just a little bit, because this is a sad story. These 15 years we have had together, talking, playing, flying, all these have been so special to me. I just want you to know that I will forever love you. It doesn't matter if we aren't biologically related or of different worlds. I don't care what you are. I don't care what you ever think of me, or if you ever even remember me. But right now, you being my Dashie, I want you. I poked her in the chest to physically show her I was talking to her. To know that fact, if there is ever a problem that happens and you need me, don't hesitate to find a way to get me, okay? I tried to laugh, passing the last part off as a joke. It worked only slightly as you both continued to cry. I could also hear sniffling from behind me. I could only picture Pinkie Pie crying much like she had in the end of the 2nd episode of Season 1, after Luna and Celestia had been reunited. Can't read. Do I have to go, Daddy? That was sounded kind of weird. It had been a few years since she had actually called me Daddy. Most of the time it was simply Dad, or Pops. It felt good knowing she still cared about me enough to call me Daddy. Much like the first time she had said it to me, so many years ago. I simply nodded my head as I stood up. Before I could fully grasp my balance, she jumped up onto me and hugged me tight. I could feel her tears on the back of my neck, and I returned the embrace. It's your actual home, Dashie. You don't belong here. You need to go back to where you belong. I belong here, with you. It hurt so much to say, but I had to keep her convinced that this was the right thing to do. No, you don't. You are limited here. You're only able to fly around the house. You have no friends or other ponies to relate to. I was only taking care of you until this time would come, but I never thought it would be this painful. It remained quiet for a few moments as we held each other tight. She didn't fight back or wanted to resist what was happening. She told me she knew as well what must be done. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, my little Dashie. We separated as she lowered herself to the ground. At this point, all the other ponies had tears flowing, even the goddess herself. She had seemed quite smug about knowing what had happened, the time difference and such. It was evident that the age difference was a shock. She most likely had expected to find a 35-year-old Rainbow Dash, but instead found a 20-year-old Dashie. Twilight stepped closer to Rainbow Dash, sniffling. Once before her horn glowed. I knew what was coming. It hurt so much, but I knew it was right. It was what had to happen for her friends, and they twisted away from me. Now I could know she was actually going home, and would be around her friends. I could fly wherever and whenever she wanted to, without any limitations. She could enjoy her friends' company once more. Wait! I looked from the floor to Dashie as she backed away from Twilight. Before I go, I want to get something. Before any pony or myself could protest, she flew up to her room. She was quick and returned with a shoebox in front of her hooves. I wasn't sure if she would be allowed to take anything with her, and half expected the princess to protest, but she remained quiet, allowing Dashie to quickly write something on a piece of paper and set it on the coffee table. She looked back at me, still crying, but with a smile on her face. I knew she had realized that this is how it must end, and I knew that was that as well. The box, for my guessing, was probably her most cherished items that she had kept until she had to leave. Though it hurt me thinking about it, I knew she had a picture of us. Then again, I hope not, for she would be forced to remember me a world away, and that just hurt just as much as everything else. I'm so sorry, Rainbow Dash, Twilight started. I honestly wish there was another way to do this. I wish I didn't have to do this, but can't, Dashie started. Can't he come with us? The stuttering in her voice told me that she was simply speaking her mind, not actually asking the question. Twilight shook her head. I knew to keep eye contact with her friend as she cried before her. Rainbow Dash, Princess Celestia started. You cannot join in our world, much like you cannot stay in his. This was all never meant to be, and the world around us was not made to house you, and yet, Celestia looked at me, smiling, then began to look around our living room, all the photos of us together, her knickknacks and belongings strewn around the room, and yet, something beautiful happened here, something I cannot explain in full. But then I realized where you ended up. I expected the worst. I figured you to be ruined, tainted, and tarnished from this world's cruelty, but now I see that as quite the opposite. That here, this man has raised you, shows me that you were in good hooves, or hands as it were. Dashie sniffed once, beginning to calm down as Celestia's words sunk in. Celestia then returned to looking at me, still smiling. I cannot speak for you, but from what I see in front of me, the amount of love you both have shared together tells me that you raised her as if she was your own. And with... Oh, my cat. My cat said chew. Yeah. What is it, kitty? Oh, well. Raised her as if she was your own. Even with the obvious differences, you still raised her unbiased to her species, or origins. You raised her as your daughter, which only makes this entire ordeal so much worse. I absorbed the words, as well as the other ponies in the room. So I must say to you, dear sir, please do not hold my student accountable for this. It was never her, nor any pony else's intention to cause this much hurt to either of you. If you must blame some pony, I would ask you to blame me. I'm not the one that helped bring them here. Take Rainbow Dash back to her home anyway from here. I just couldn't look at any of them. My heavy breaking down with my sobs. My mind was just going. Oh my God, I just can't even read. My mind was just going on. My mind was just going on her own, thinking back at all the things Dashie and I did together. I took a deep breath as I spoke. Just, how could I blame some pony for sitting Rainbow Dash here? I sniffled, and then cleared my throat as I continued. And then I choked up as I searched for the words to express myself. These have been the best 15 years of my life. So if anything, I feel quite the opposite. I wish to thank you, Twilight, and the rest of you. Thank you for what you did, though not intentional. Thank you for all that came out of this. And finally, thank you for all the years of my life and my love. With Dashie, I tried to smile at twilight between her sobs. But she looked on the edge of tears herself, and could only look away before she cried herself. Celestia slipped from the rug she laid on, and walked over to me as I stood. No need for thanks, good sir. Instead, I wish to thank you for taking care of one of my little ponies. She would never have made it without someone much like yourself. Celestia closed her eyes, and then leaned in her horn towards me. I didn't move. I wasn't sure what she was going on. As she touched her horn on my forehead, I could feel a sudden warmth rush through my body. She drew her horn away, still smiling, as she stepped back. Thank you. Then another pony spoke out. Thank you, sir. Twilight finally able to speak through her tears. Thank you, Applejack said. Thank you, darling, for taking care of for our Rainbow Dash, Rarity spoke. Thank you, Fluttershy spoke. Thanks, Pinkie shouted as she sprung up to me and hugged me. I couldn't help but laugh a little from her extravagant attitude. Better yet, the rumors on the internet were true. Her mane did smell like cotton candy. I remained silent as I nodded and looked back to Dashie, who also wore a smile on her face. The ponies all returned to Dashie as Twilight's horn began to glow once more. Are you ready now, Rainbow? Twilight asked again, returning to Dashie and starting her magic. She simply nodded as she closed her eyes and awaited the inevitable. It seemed time slowed down as Twilight's horn approached Dashie's forehead. My mind began forcing random memories of us together. I can vividly remember the splashing of the bathtub from her bath times, where she showered herself. I could still taste our many failed attempts at baking and cooking in general. I still smelled the outdoors from our times at the park. She was able to spread her wings. There were so many memories that I simply had to shut off my brain so that I could keep myself focused on Dashie. A single tear ran down her left cheek, as I could see her eyes moving under her lids. Her mind was doing the same thing mine was, forcing our fondest memories all at once. But this would be the last time we ever saw one another. Finally, Twilight's horn touched Dashie's forehead. There was a bright light, and when I could see again, they were all gone. All the ponies had disappeared. There were my tears. A sigh in relief. I sighed in relief. It felt wrong, but it also felt right. She was now the normal Rainbow Dash that belonged in Ponyville. I stood in the living room for several more minutes, just staring blankly at the empty floor, the Dashie had been standing at just moments before. Then I looked around the room and took notice at my surroundings. I noticed things were different. Pictures that once held images of me and Dashie no longer hung from the walls. Many of the random personal items of hers were scattered around the living room. Were gone as well. I was confused, ran up to her bedroom to look. When I opened the door, what I saw, instead of her NASCAR and air show posters mixed with her bed and other furnishings, was a simple office. A cheap desk with a computer on it and an ugly-looking potted plant. What? It took me some time to digest what I was experiencing. Before I realized what must have happened, it made sense, but it still stung me in my chest. To make sure nothing had happened between worlds. Celeste must have moved any existence of Dashie ever being here, being with me. 15 years all down the drain as her existence was wiped from the planet. I felt as though all those years were for naught, wasted as I would be able to remember her. Yet my memories still lingered on of her. I couldn't remember everything as if it were still as vivid as they happened. Then the thought clicked. She did something with her magic when she touched me with her horn. Did she protect my memories so that I would remember her? Had she done the same for Dashie? I walked downstairs into the living room while I thought, and the coffee table set a book. Recognized it. It was my photo album. I sat down on the couch and opened up the first page. There was my mother and father with me shortly after I was born. I continued to flip through them looking at my own past. There was a gap after my parents died, but to keep my mother's dream going, I picked it back up, making false pictures of happy times and enjoying my life to stick to her book of memories. Then I looked and opened up a piece of paper. I picked it up and immediately recognized my own handwriting. Or more important, or recognized the handwriting, or more correct, mouth writing. I speculated this is what she had written down before she left. Oh God, I may actually completely break down. Dad, for 15 years you took care of me. For 15 years you loved me, played with me, make sure I had a life in a world that was not meant to house me. I'm not a mayor of many words, but even though I told you this in person, I felt you needed a written version of it, so you will know it was all real. I love you, Daddy. You helped me into the mayor I am now. I'm not sure what is going to happen, if I will remember any of this or not, but I want you to know you did a darn good job of raising me, even if I was a bit stubborn at times, and short with you during others. With Celestia's permission, I hope to allow you to keep our photos, our memories with you, so you will never forget it. Again, I love you, and thank you. Your daughter always, your little Dashie forever, Rainbow Dash. Oh man, that's just... I'm trying to hold back the tears. I set the note back onto the page, flattening it with my hand as I felt the dried tear marks littered the paper. I read the note over and over again until I had it memorized. Then I turned the page and was greeted with Dashie's Philly smile. Now I sit here, looking through my photo album of our time together. Her first bath, which I find hilarious that he mentions. Her first words, her first drawing, even her first preened feather. All in this book of memories. Everything else in the house is gone, but what I had to put in this book still remains. I don't dare ever change that either. I will continue to add to it to show that those years with her helped not only shape herself, but helped shape me as well. I'm a new man from what I was 15 years ago, changed given another chance by a sheer miracle of fortunate events that had transpired from somewhere I can't even speculate. If I had ever gone back and checked that box, if I had done something different than I could have changed everything between us. I guess I'm lucky that it all worked out. I can gladly say I have achieved my parents' only wish, for me to be happy. Though I'm saddened, I'm still happy for the time I had with her. I now sit alone in my parents' house, staring at my mother's rainbow pictures, the smile plastered on my face. Every time I see it, I think of Dashie. I should be crying. I should feel horrible. I want nothing but my daughter back. And yet I feel relieved to know that everything is alright. She didn't run away or leave on bad terms. She is gone, home, to where she belongs. It is safe. I look back down at my photo album, turn the page to our most recent photo. The pages are blank. I still have a lot of life ahead of me, and I plan to make the best of it. For myself. For my little Dashie. The end. Oh man, I was really, really close to just bursting out right there during the note. That still just makes me just completely just shudder in utter sadness. This story also teaches a very valuable lesson, which I like a lot about it. It teaches that don't cry because it ended. Smile because it happened. I mean, if this didn't happen, who knows where this guy would have been? We still don't even know his name. His name should be Jim. Seems like a Jim to me. I don't know. Anyways, goodbye everyone.